anxiety disorder, or GAD, is an anxiety disorder characterized by excessive, uncontrollable, and often irrational worry about events or activities. This often interferes with daily functioning, and sufferers are overly concerned about what many would consider to be everyday events, from work difficulties to the slight possibility of missing the bus.
Hi, I'm Heather Maxson, and this is anxiety. I think this is a terrible idea. I know, but it's for a class, kind of important. I've already stated my opinion on this. Would you care to introduce yourself? Fine. I'm anxiety. I worry about pretty much anything you can imagine. And what might seem trivial to you pretty much is the end of the world to me. You've got that right. Symptoms of generalized anxiety disorder include irritability, sweating, restlessness, excessive worry, feeling tired, and not even being able to sleep. Symptoms must be ongoing for at least 6 months, and at least 3 of these symptoms must be identified for a formal diagnosis. Just remember that even if you have these symptoms, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's me. They could also be caused by drugs, medication, or other physical problems. So give your doctor all the correct information so you don't get stuck on the wrong meds. Having anxiety can be tough, and the first step to dealing with anxiety is accepting that you have it. Why'd you phrase it that way? It sounds like you want to get rid of me. Well, you're not really a walk in the park. As a person, you're great, but the actual disorder you represent... Right. I forgot. Sorry, go on. Once you realize that you have generalized anxiety disorder, see a doctor to see if treatment or medication can help you. Yeah, too bad literally every medication has some kind of dangerous side effect. Now, I know you're literally anxiety, but don't you think that concern's a bit far-stretched? No, I'm actually being serious. For example, benzodiazepines give short-term relief, but people on them grow both physical and psychological dependence on them, so it's hard to get off of them. They also decrease focus on things like work, so even driving is dangerous for people on benzos. Okay, but that's just one type of medication. I know that. The preferred first line of treatment are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs. These increase serotonin levels through inhibition of serotonin reuptake receptors, which basically means that they're antidepressants. But the side effects tend to include nausea, sexual dysfunction, headaches, diarrhea, constipation, restlessness, and even contemplation of suicide in adults and adolescents. You know a lot more about this kind of thing than I expected. It's literally my job to worry about things. Anything could go wrong at any moment. Thank you for that bit of encouragement. Moving on, let's talk about lifestyle habits that can help decrease anxiety. Again, really uncomfortable with this whole getting rid of me thing. We've discussed this. I know, sorry. On to happier topics. Life habits that can help reduce anxiety include stress management, relaxation, sleep hygiene, and exercise. Stress is a factor that can trigger anxiety, so keeping stress levels low through things like stress management, stress reduction, and relaxation can help. Also, physical activity has been shown to be a positive impact, while low physical activity can be a risk factor to anxiety disorders. That's great. You seem uneasy. Is something wrong? Well, I mean, never mind, it's stupid. If you don't want to talk about it, then I understand, but I don't think anything you have to say is stupid. Well, we talked about symptoms and everything, but you missed something that, at least I think, is kind of important. I did? What is it? How to deal with panic attacks. Oh, you're right. That's a pretty important thing to talk about. Panic attacks are common among many anxiety disorders and other situations. There are sudden periods of intense fear, and symptoms include heart palpitations, sweating, trembling, shortness of breath, numbness, or worrying that something terrible is going to happen. Panic attacks can last from seconds to hours. Those symptoms can usually be spotted within seconds of it beginning. Those things are not fun. That's putting it lightly. There are coping mechanisms. For example, there's a 5-2-5 and a 4-7-8 breathing count where you try to breathe using your stomach and diaphragm rather than your chest to avoid shallow breathing. You breathe in for the number of seconds on the first number, hold for the number of seconds for the second number, and then exhale for the seconds on the third number. Personally, I prefer the 4-7-8 count, but if the 5-2-5 works for you, definitely use that one. There's also a sensory grounding exercise where you identify 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you feel, 3 things that you hear, 2 things that you smell, and 1 thing that you taste. If I can't really taste anything, I usually resort to counting saliva for the last one. I'd say that's weird, but it actually does work. Definitely helpful. Though if it doesn't seem to be working for you, try different grounding exercises. It's always helpful to know several of them in case one of them doesn't seem to be working. And that brings up our last topic, how to approach someone who is suffering from anxiety. If someone you know has just informed you that they are feeling anxious, don't ask them, "Are you okay?" or "What's wrong?" They literally just told you that they are not okay and they need your help. A better response would be, "What can I do to help you?" If they're reaching out, that means they're asking for your help. So just do whatever they're asking you to do, even if it seems silly. This assures them that they're being taken seriously. For example, sometimes physical contact is too overwhelming, so I don't want people to touch me. Right. One of your natural instincts to comfort someone would be to hug them, but you should always ask first if they seem really anxious. It's really easy for an anxious person to get overwhelmed. So if you're in a really loud, bright, or crowded area, leading them away to somewhere less intense might help. No matter what, always ask them what they need. This helps them feel like they're making the decisions, so they feel like they have more control. And when you're having a panic attack, control is the last thing you feel like you have sometimes. If you feel that someone you know might have an anxiety disorder, be careful how you approach them. Don't start off by saying, "Hey, I think you need a therapist," or "You might need some meds." It will not get good results, and quite frankly, is really rude. Instead, open up the conversation by saying, "I've noticed you've been anxious lately, and I'm concerned." Focus on how you've seen changes in their behavior lately, and how it worries you. If they seem like they want help, but they find it daunting, offer them support by researching therapists or accompanying them to their first appointment. Remind them that this is treatable and they don't have to go through it alone. Also, whenever you're interacting with someone who has anxiety, remember that feelings are extremely important. Showing that kind of vulnerability takes trust, so try to avoid saying anything that might minimize their experiences. I'm Heather Maxon. I'm Anxiety. And this was a discussion on generalized anxiety disorder. Thanks for watching. Spouting all that information was great, but please never have me do that again. If you don't feel comfortable, then I won't. That was terrifying, but also kind of fun. I don't know, my pulse is still racing. If it helps, I think you did great. Great. I'm gonna go listen to some Panic at the Disco.